Sharon Berger has been a Franciscan sister in the cross for more than 40 years. For several of those years, she was administered pastoral care in hospitals and nursing homes, and also held other positions with many people and their families through the process of dying. She's been involved with natural burial ideas since 2007 when she attended a workshop given by Natural Legacies. In sharing this information with one of the 89-year-old sisters, Sharon is a sister with the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, and this other sister, this 89-year-old sister, responded that that's what she wanted to do. So, thus began the process of working with township and county offices to establish their own natural burial site up at the Franciscan Sisters Center. So, she continues to provide this information and do groups like this and talk to people about natural burial options. So we are very happy to have Sister Sharon Berger to tell us about her work.
Well, I was asked to emphasize the process that we went through in order to establish the cemetery. And as was said, I had heard about the natural burial movement, had read about it, but it was when I went to an energy fair in Custer, Wisconsin, sponsored by Midwest
Renewable Energy.
And I came back from that all excited and began to talk about it. So, would you like to? Okay. We've, I wasn't sure what this group really understood as natural burial. So this is the definition that we use. That natural burial is returning our bodies to the natural cycle of life by choosing to be buried in a simple biodegradable container without embalming and without a concrete grave liner. And this is Sister Helen. This is the one that I came back from Custer and was telling you about. She was 89 at the time. She had been an active environmentalist. In fact, she's the one who had the membership in MREA. And so I felt like I really wanted to share this with her. And lo and behold, she says to me, well, that's what I want. That's what I've asked for. And she put it on her health care power of attorney. No one paid a lot of attention to it. And so I started digging around and dug it out, and what she had said was that she wanted to simply be wrapped in a sheet and buried in the ground without anything else. And so we started talking, wondering if this was possible. And at present, we did not have a cemetery of our own at that time. We buried in the Catholic cemetery in La Crosse, and found out that, of course, it's required that we have a concrete liner in the grave. That's a cemetery requirement. And also that most funeral directors, and we work with 5 in La Crosse, who do not like to do public showings. Not sure if that's your experience too, John, without embalming. And so we were up against both of those kinds of things. And so what happened was I began to look into what would it take in order to have this possibility for our sisters. Okay, we have to do another one here. Oh, there. Okay. There we go. First of all, we thought, well, we better determine, we were about 300 sisters at that time, and we thought, well, if Helen's the only one.
What she does.
So we started informal conversations with sisters, and this was in July of 2007. And by February, I had written an article for our newsletter asking a lot of questions, giving answers about natural burial, and we got a lot of positive response. So then we started really looking into the statutes and regulations. The internet is wonderful for finding out regulations, state regulations. Found out that there really aren't regulations on depth of burial, needing to to be embalmed, needing to be, have a grave liner, a cement grave liner. So it's amazing what you find out isn't there, but also there are regulations, and so we had to be aware of those. We consulted with our lawyer, with funeral directors, and with township and county personnel. We found out that the county really controls a lot of what happens, but we had to also meet with the township board, and so it's all of this kind of thing that you can't just say, I want to do this. And then we needed to decide on an appropriate site on our property. We are centered in La Crosse, but we have our skilled nursing facility 12 miles out of La Crosse on St. Joseph Ridge. In the late 1800s, we had a farm up there, so we have about 200 acres. And that's where our sisters that need skilled nursing reside. And we have begun to do look at our land and say, how do we restore the land? How do we restore the prairies and the natural habitat that have that? So we had already started that process. Okay, and then we contracted with the land surveyor, and I got to look at some of that fancy equipment that they use nowadays. We had to submit to the county an application for a conditional use permit. And that's La Crosse County. I'm not sure if that's true of every county, but that's quite a long process that you have to fill out, answer all kinds of things, DNR regulations. We had to have a survey to prove that we really had owned this land and what the regulation, or what our parameters were. We did had to have a public hearing, and so that if anybody protested this, they would have a chance to say it. We had one person, a neighbor, whose question was, will it affect the water? And we could say that we had checked all of that out, that wasn't an issue. But what the public hearing did was it gave us publicity, because the paper got a hold of the public hearing, and it was interesting that we got a lot of wonderful affirmation from a lot of people like you saying, oh, can I have this? What's possible for any of us? Then for our own sisters, we developed a policy agreement form. Again, some of our sisters were concerned that, well, all of us have to be buried this way then, or we're going to require that this is the way it is. And we wanted sisters to know that this was a choice, as it should be for anyone. This is not something. So they have to sign an agreement form, and part of that agreement form is that they have spoken to their families, and that their families understand that if they choose this, they will not come and see the sister all made up and looking beautiful, that it will be a natural state, and that the funeral will happen possibly within 24 hours or no later than 48 hours. So that puts some restrictions, especially if families are at a distance. And then what we did after that was we developed a protocol with our villa staff and the local funeral director. And we were blessed with a young funeral director, Joe Shams, who had just moved back from Minnesota to La Crosse, and was starting his own business after working for one of the funeral directors. And he was very much interested in this, and has been the real help to us to say, in terms of the protocol, that what we were hoping was that we have nurses, some of our sisters, some lay staff, that they would be the ones to prepare the body and to dress and do everything necessary for that. And so that is what's happening, but we decided that we really needed a funeral director to help us walk through that process, at least for the first ones. And he keeps telling us that we can do this ourselves, but there's that hesitancy of what does that mean. And our nurses had always prepared the bodies, cleansed them, had them presentable before the funeral director came. But this was a little more extensive, and so that's what we worked out with him. Okay. This is the building I'm talking about. This is our skilled nursing center, and the green you're looking at right now is the beginning.